Bonjour tout le monde et bienvenue à notre podcast, à Learn French with Alexa. Now, today's podcast is number 4. Now, you know the drill. I will read a short passage in French based on a fun fact about me, Alexa Polidoro. So if you're listening to it and do not know me, that should be quite interesting. You're going to think, but why should I listen to fun facts about you? You don't have to listen. But this one is quite fun. Now, the text is of A1, A2 level in French, which means that it's a beginner's intermediate level. So remember that this podcast is all about understanding the grammar and practicing your listening skills, okay? I'm going to read the first passage of a fun fact on me, Alexa Polidoro, and then we'll ask you a question, and maybe 2 questions, who knows, okay? Now, the focus of this particular passage is based on idioms using the verb faire or avoir. We're going to have a look at the idioms in a minute, but first of all, but listen very carefully. Écoutez attentivement. I'm not telling you what it's about because you're going to tell me in a minute what you think the text is about. So here we go. Je vais vous faire une confidence. Moi, j'ai horreur de faire la bise. En effet, quand on pense à la France, on pense souvent à la bise. La bise, c'est faire un bisou sur les 2 joues pour dire bonjour à quelqu'un. Et alors attention, les règles ne sont pas les mêmes partout. En général, c'est 2 comme à Paris, mais à Marseille ou à Montpellier, c'est parfois 3 et 4 en Normandie. Vous imaginez? Dans ma région, on en fait 2 pour dire bonjour et au revoir. Okay, so what is the podcast about? Now, you may have heard the word bise quite a lot, and that's exactly the title of the podcast. Faire la bise. What is faire la bise? And that's part of our first idiom. Now, to do a kiss or to make a kiss is faire la bise in French, but it's not any kind of kisses, okay? So when you do a kiss, when you fais la bise, it means that you say hello to someone. In France, we kiss on both cheeks, but sometimes 3 times and sometimes 4 times. So faire la bise is basically when you kiss someone hello or au revoir, okay? So here's my first question. I'm going to read it to you again. Qu'est-ce que je n'aime pas faire? So this is about me. Qu'est-ce que je n'aime pas faire? Ou qu'est-ce qu'Alexa n'aime pas faire? Okay? So listen to it again. Qu'est-ce que means what? What is it? Je n'aime pas is a negation. Ne aime pas. When you hear ne and a pas, then it means not, okay? So what is it I do not like to do? Qu'est-ce que je n'aime pas faire? So try to answer in French if possible. If not, just answer in English. But listen to the passage again. Now, we've had a look at the first idiom, faire la bise. How many other idioms can you see? Listen very carefully. Écoutez attentivement. Je vais vous faire une confidence. Moi, j'ai horreur de faire la bise. En effet, quand on pense à la France, on pense souvent à la bise. La bise, c'est faire un bisou sur les 2 joues pour dire bonjour à quelqu'un. Et alors attention, les règles ne sont pas les mêmes partout. En général, c'est 2, comme à Paris. Mais à Marseille ou à Montpellier, c'est parfois 3 et 4 en Normandie. Vous imaginez? Dans ma région, on en fait 2 pour dire bonjour et au revoir. Okay, so we've listened to the passage a second time. Can you answer qu'est-ce que je n'aime pas faire? This one is quite obvious. What is it I do not like doing? So this is a fun fact about me. Of course, it's faire la bise, to say hello, kissing people on both cheeks. And can you imagine if I had to do it 3 times or 4 times? In my region, we do it only twice. Faire la bise is not my favorite thing in the world. There are many things I don't like. If you listen to this podcast, you would realize that actually I'm very difficult. Je n'aime pas faire la bise would be the answer to this question. However, if you wanted to say, well, Alexa does not like kissing to say hello, you would say, Alexa n'aime pas faire la bise. So the verb remains the same. It's the present tense. The ending for je and il, elle, or on is exactly the same. It's an I. So je n'aime pas, il n'aime pas, elle n'aime pas, on n'aime pas, etc. And what about you? How do you feel about faire la bise? So you could say, I like it, j'aime faire la bise. Or you could say, I do not like it, je n'aime pas faire la bise. Now, here is a second question before we move on to reading the text another time. Dans quelle région fait-on 4 bises pour dire bonjour? Now, dans quelle région? Now, quelle région means which region. Okay, dans quelle région? In which region? Fait-on, on fait 4 bises pour dire bonjour. We do 4 kisses to say hello. Which region in France? So listen really carefully, okay? As I said, sometimes we do 2 bises, sometimes 3 bises, and sometimes 4 bises, okay? Listen very carefully. Je vais vous faire une confidence. Moi, j'ai horreur de faire la bise. En effet, quand on pense à la France, on pense souvent à la bise. La bise, c'est faire un bisou sur les joues pour dire bonjour à quelqu'un. Et alors, attention, les règles ne sont pas les mêmes partout. En général, c'est 2 comme à Paris. Mais à Marseille ou à Montpellier, c'est parfois 3 et 4 en Normandie. Vous imaginez, dans ma région, on en fait 2 pour dire bonjour et au revoir. And 2 in my region is far enough, for me anyway. So, the question is, dans quelle région fait-on 4 bises pour dire bonjour? In which region do we do 4 kisses to say hello, or goodbye for that matter, by the way, ou au revoir? So what do you think? Did you hear? Well, Normandie. The Normandie region, which is the west side of west is Brittany. Normandie is not at all. It's west of Paris, if you wish. So, en Normandie, on fait 4 bises pour dire bonjour et au revoir. So that would be your ideal answer. En Normandie, on fait 4 fois la bise pour dire bonjour, okay? Now, do you remember that the focus of this podcast was about idioms? So we've learned one, faire la bise, to kiss, hello, or goodbye, okay? Now, another one was faire une confidence. So, je vais vous faire une confidence. I am going to let you in a secret. This is me letting you in my confidence, okay? Je vais faire une confidence is part of an idiom using the verb faire. And by the way, we cover at Learn French with Alexa, the full complete French course has a full lesson on the verb faire and activities such as faire du piano, faire de la trompette, etc. In lesson 8 of the full course, if you're interested in checking this one out. So, faire la bise, faire une confidence. And the third idiom was avoir horreur de. Now, this is the second sentence. Moi, j'ai horreur de faire la bise. So within that sentence, you've got 2 idioms. Avoir horreur. J'ai horreur. Of course, we have conjugated avoir in the present tense. I have. I have horror of. Okay? So that means I detest or I hate doing that. But the idiom is avoir horreur de. Again, there are many idioms using avoir something de. Okay? So another thing I could think of is avoir besoin de, to need something, whereby you would have to conjugate the verb avoir in whatever tense you want and add besoin then de. So avoir besoin de means to need something, but avoir horreur de means to hate. Avoir envie de, to feel like something. Okay, so there's quite a few. Again, we covered that in the course. So, 3 idioms. Faire une confidence, faire la bise, avoir horreur de. If you're enjoying learning French with me and would like to go even further, my certified complete French course brings everything together in one place. You'll have lessons, quizzes, and support guides to help you reach your goals, and it's all taught by me. Use code ALEXAPOD for 15% off. So let's have a look at the text now. Je vais vous faire une confidence. Well, we know what that means. I'm going to let you in a secret. Moi, j'ai horreur de faire la bise. I hate kissing people on the cheek to say hello. That's basically faire la bise means that. En effet, quand on pense à la France, in fact, when you think of France, on pense souvent à la bise. We often think of the bise, okay? La bise, c'est faire un bisou sur les deux joues. The bise is when you kiss someone on both cheeks to say hello, pour dire bonjour à quelqu'un, to someone. Mais, et alors attention, but be careful, les règles ne sont pas les mêmes partout. The rules aren't the same everywhere. Partout means everywhere. En général, c'est deux comme à Paris. Generally, en général, ou généralement, you can say, it's two, as in Paris. In Paris, it's two. Mais à Marseille ou à Montpellier, so the southern Marseille and Montpellier, c'est parfois trois. It is sometimes 3 kisses. Parfois 3. Et 4 en Normandie. So when you say you're going to bonjour, 4 fois. I mean, if you've got to do and say hello to about 10 or 20 people in front of you that you know, or if it's a wedding or whatever, that's what you would have to do. Now, can you imagine? Vous imaginez? Dans ma région, on en fait 2 pour dire bonjour et au revoir. In my region, we do 2 to say hello and goodbye. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story. That when I was at school, in high school, back in the 80s, tell you my age, when I was a teenager, we used to faire la bise every time we saw someone in the morning, you know, and usually when, you know, not necessarily friends, but if you said hello to your friend and kiss them hello, like faire la bise, you would have to faire la bise to every single one next to them, okay, even though you're not friends with them or you don't know them personally, okay? And the same goes for au revoir. So every single morning, every single evening, you would have to faire la bise. You know, that was a common practice and it was a polite way to say hello. Now, can you imagine my state every time I saw a friend that was surrounded by about 20 schoolmates? You know, I hated it because that means I had to say hello to every single one of them by kissing them. You're going to think, well, Alexa, you have an issue. Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, I don't know whether it's a hygiene thing or whatever, but yeah, unless you're my super good friend, I'm not going to do that. Anyway, now you know. So, in today's podcast, we have seen 3 idioms, faire une confidence, avoir horreur de, and faire la bise. Now, of course, for more podcasts like this, you know, and in order to practice your listening comprehension, why don't you have a look at the other podcasts of this very series that I have already done? Please let us know whether you like this format or not, okay? It's very much up to you. If you want to see a different format, let me know as well, and I will start a series on that very format, whatever works. That's it for me. Au revoir. À bientôt. Bisous, bisous.